What's up guys, Jackie here from The Wandering Oak. It is a beautiful crisp fall day. It's October 18th and I am here outside planting some California early garlic. This is the time of year that you want to be planting your garlic. It lets it overwinter in a process called stratification, where it needs the cold weather to really produce these nice big heads of garlic here. And so I'm going to clear a space out for to plant my garlic, and then I'm going to go over everything that you have to do to plant. So this is the location that I have picked to plant my garlic. I had transplanted that tree earlier this season and it just didn't make it. That happens in gardening. Everything's a risk, and also the weeds have just taken over this area. So I've got my shovel here and I am going to get started on clearing the space so we can plant the garlic. What you just saw me do was I started off by weeding the spot. You want to make sure that there are no extra plants there that don't need to be, because those are just going to compete for resources, sunlight, water, nutrients, all that. And some of the more vigorous weeds can actually choke out your plants, especially the creeping Charlie that you saw a lot of. This right here, all over the place. It's a nasty, ruthless weed. So now I'm going to turn the camera around and talk to you a bit about how we're going to plant the garlic and the anatomy of the garlic head. When you go to plant garlic, this is what's called a head. This is where the roots are, and this is where the plant neck comes out. This variety that I have here is known as California softneck garlic or California early garlic, because you can sometimes get an earlier yield than some other varieties. So when you hear the term softneck, you might also hear the term hardneck. Hardneck garlic, it's going to only have usually one clove or one row of cloves around the neck, as opposed to softneck garlic, which has many layers. Hardneck garlic is better for colder climates, but softneck does store longer. So if you break down all of these many layers, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, you'll see that the head of garlic is made up of all of these cloves that you can then pull apart. And this is what you're going to be planting. You're going to plant this side down, because this is where the roots are going to come out, and this, the pointy side up, and sometimes the pointy side is not near as prominent as this. This is where the stem is going to originate from. Let me just pull all 16 of my heads apart and we'll see how many cloves we'll end up with, because one clove is going to give you one head of garlic. Alright, so that one head yielded 12 cloves, which I could potentially get 12 heads of garlic, one from each of these cloves. However, not every clove is as big as this. These, you can go ahead and plant them. You probably won't get a very big head if they even do anything at all. They might just, rot over the winter. These are more suitable to just take inside and use in cooking and just planting the bigger ones. But of course, you can go ahead and plant all sizes. You never know what you might get. And this is actually a really good example of what a soft neck garlic looks like. This was the very center of the head, and with a hard neck garlic, this would not be a clove at all. It would just be the stem. Whereas with soft neck garlic, each one all the way down to the center is its own clove. All the garlic is pulled apart into cloves now, and this is something you should probably do outside because, as you can see, it makes quite the mess. And this is what we're left with. Cloves of all size. I'm gonna go through and count how many there are. I might not have enough space to plant them all. That's a lot of cloves. So might have to go look for another place to plant the overflow. All right, and there you have it. That is 215 heads or cloves of garlic. So for $17, because each one of the heads that I bought, I got for 99 cents. And I bought 16 of them plus tax. That's not too shabby. You know, for $17, potentially 215 plants. Now, if you went to the store and bought organic garlic, it would be a lot more than $17 if you bought 215. Are all of them this big? Absolutely not. But I'm still going to plant them if I have enough space. I'm going to start out with the space that I've already prepared with the big garlic cloves and then see what's left, and then I'll try and find another spot to put the rest, because no way 215 heads of garlic are going to grow in that little space that I prepared. I just wasn't expecting 16 heads of garlic to turn into 215, and that just goes to show you how crazy, you know, one head of garlic can produce, you know, potentially 12, 15 new heads of garlic. And something to be mindful of when you are taking your garlic apart, if any of them feel squishy at all, I did have a couple that felt squishy, don't plant those, and try and leave as much of this paper, this paper on as you can, because that's going to protect them from rotting. So I'm going to lay them out, and if you're wondering how far you should space them apart, just think about how big, you know, the variety of garlic head that your planting was, and it just, you know, imagine that head fully grown and then give it a little bit more room. You don't want them to be competing too much for nutrients and everything like that, as well as you want them to be able to form their heads to their fullest. If they're planted too far together, they just won't have space to grow. And as far as how far down to plant them, it's recommended that you plant anywhere from 1 to 5 or 6 inches, depending on if you're planning on mulching and what your climate type is. I'm gonna plant them a little bit shallower because we are a very wet climate, and if I plant them super far down in clay soil, there's a greater potential that they will rot. So I am going to plant probably 1 to 3 inches down, and I am going to mulch with wood chips before the winter comes. I still have a ton left in the bag, but this is all this little area could do. I squeezed them as close as I was comfortable with, and the space, if none of them rot, which is a good possibility with where I live because we get a ton of winter precipitation in the form of rain and snow and everything in between. But if all of these were to produce a head of garlic, I would end up with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I tried counting them. I've already lost track. So if I want an accurate count of what is in this bed right here, I can either count what's left in my bag, or as I push them down into the ground, count them then. Do I really care? Probably not. Garlic is one of those crops that is pretty unsatisfying to plant because you have to wait all winter to see any action, and it is hard work, especially when you live in an area where it is really hard to dig. Even with spending time tilling up the area and making it as lofty as I can, it was a nightmare to get those bulbs in. I am sweating, and I haven't even done half of my garlic cloves that I have. I don't have any more time to dedicate to this project today since John's brother is in from Colorado, and I've got to get the house ready because people are coming over tonight. So all of those other garlic cloves that I have will have to wait for another day, but as long as you get them in sometime between September and November, or honestly as long as you can work the ground, it kind of is like any other bulb you plant for a spring, tulips and daffodils and stuff like that. So a few last words that I want to say before I close out this video is it is super rewarding planting garlic because no matter what else happens for next year, you at least have one crop planted and you can look forward to that. And once it's done, it's done. And I'm probably not going to water these in at all. The soil is very saturated and we are bound to get a lot more rain in the near future. You want to make sure that your garlic never completely dries out, because then it can just decay from lack of water, but you also don't want to give it too much water if at all possible. In my instance, just because we get a lot of heavy precipitation during the winter, there's not really anything I can do about it other than plant heavy and hope not all of them rot out. But I'm going to mulch these up heavily because I wasn't able to get them as deep as I wanted to into the ground. And something else that I wanted to talk about is where to buy heads of garlic. I got mine from a local garden center, but you can get them online, but you have to be super prepared and sign up for email lists and everything from like Johnny Seeds or Baker Creek or Am I Gardener, all those places, because once those places put out seed garlic, it seems like they're gone in an instant. And if all else fails and you can't find any garlic for sale at local garden centers, or garlic meant to be seed garlic, just go to your grocery store and buy organic garlic. Non-organic garlic might be sprayed with a growth inhibitor. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. You have better luck with the organic stuff, and just use that. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you plant enough for yourselves to eat, but also to save to plant for the next year. And I'm just on my way to clean up. That I'm cleaning up right now, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this or not, but make sure to give any of your alliums a lot of fertilizer throughout the season. So I gave them a lot of fertilizer today, as well as I'll be fertilizing them in the spring, maybe even 2 more times before I harvest them. And if your garlic starts to pop up, so you start to see the little green shoots, don't worry, those are fine. They'll die back and then they'll grow back in the spring. But you want to be careful not to plant your garlic too early because you don't want those tops to get too big. But all right, thank you for watching this video. See you later. Bye.